Really got it all here on this show here this morning. A lot to get to, so glad you're with us. I'm Eric Connert.
And I'm Nada Rampur, and we even have some rain on the way. So Evan's joining us with a look at that. How far is this little storm out now?
I had it up just a minute ago with like the timing, and it looks like we're about 4 hours out, so just around 10 a.m. So that's when we see those showers appear. The important thing to note, though, is that if you're starting off your 6 o'clock hour, the sun is coming up, you want to get outside for a jog or a walk, maybe you're doing some yoga. I know Neda's doing a lot of yoga. If you're doing it outside, then you still have those dry skies to contend with through the morning hours. Wind also is not going to be too much of a factor until we get to about 8 a.m. So still another 2 hours on that. What I'm trying to get at is that your morning is not wasted. And if Roya wants to go to the playground, she can do so through the morning hours, and then into your afternoon and really the late morning is when we start to see those showers pop up. Temperatures are going to be much cooler. Wind is also going to be a factor. There will be some snow over the mountaintops. A wind advisory takes effect at 8 a.m., winter weather advisory at 1 p.m. We'll have more details on how much rain and when we'll see all of it taper off in just a bit. Jenny?
Well, good morning to you. So here's what you need to know. If you are going to be traveling north on the 805, anywhere near the southbound 15, reports of a hit and run, very minor in nature. Nobody was hurt or anything like that, but you may see some crews on the scene. I want to show you this over on the westbound side of the 8 at Los Coches. It looks like just a single lane is blocked, some sort of an obstruction, but you can see your travel times are fine. If you look up towards Lakeside, taking on the 67, things are okay as well. Coronado Bridge seeing stronger volumes, so for sure you're tapping the brakes at the tail end. Everything to the North County is quiet. Back to you.
Jenny and Evan, thank you. And we are staying on top of new developments this morning into that crash. This involved the tractor trailer and an SUV in Imperial County. At least 13 people were killed. A dozen other people are hurt. This morning, NTSB investigators will be at the crash scene trying to figure out how this happened.
That crash happened just after 6 yesterday morning on Highway 115 and Norrish near Holtville, so about 24 hours ago here. Some of the victims taken to UC Medical Center in Hillcrest. Excuse me, and that's where we find News 8's Chris Groh with the latest. Several updates here this morning, Chris.
Good morning, and let's start with the newest one, the fact that we know that now Homeland Security agents and investigators have launched an investigation to see whether or not this crash is tied in any way to human smuggling. Remember, 25 people were inside that Ford SUV, a vehicle only meant to carry 8 people.
Received an additional 911. RP advisor was possible bodies on the roadway, several injured. Got that.
And at this hour, this is what we're looking at right now. 13 people dead after this crash between that SUV and tractor trailer. The scene yesterday, as first responders were there, as we were there, really pure chaos. Bodies were thrown across the highway. That's how it was described when a lot of those people first got on scene. Some of them were the wounded, some of them pronounced dead on scene. At least 6 people from the crash have been taken here to UC San Diego, in Hillcrest, other hospitals as well. Why the crash happened in the first place, that's still very much under investigation. As you pointed out, the National Transportation Safety Board going to be joining CHP to handle that aspect of that. Now, we don't know much about the victims, including any of their names. However, per the Associated Press, Roberto Velasco, Director of North American Affairs for Mexico's Foreign Relations Department, confirmed Tuesday on his Twitter account that at least 10 of those killed have been identified as Mexicans. No names, though, have been released. Investigators are still trying to determine exactly where it is that they came from. CHP says they were not being pursued by Border Patrol before the crash.
Some of the victims were ejected from the vehicle. There's some walking wounded that pulled themselves out of the vehicles. And then once the allied agencies and our CHP personnel arrived on scene, they were also pulling people from the vehicle as well.
And as for the driver of that tractor trailer, he's been identified as Joel Beltran of El Centro. The 68-year-old is still being treated for his injuries in the hospital. Eric and Neto.
Chris Groh, thank you for that update. And we are waiting for official word on the identity of the sailor who died in this chain reaction crash. This involved a military convoy, and it happened near Camp Pendleton on the 5 yesterday morning near Basilone Road. Investigators say 5 military trucks were traveling in that convoy. One suddenly slowed down for some reason, causing this chain reaction crash. You see all of the backup on the 5 there. 5 other sailors were hurt. Now, the convoy was from Ventura County-based Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 5.
Today is the day we expect a former NFL player to officially learn his sentence in a series of assaults against women.
This comes just weeks after Kellen Winslow Jr. changed his plea. News 8's Allison Royal joining us live in Vista with how we got to this point and what we can expect in court today. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning, Netta and Eric. Well, Kellen Winslow Jr. is expected to be sentenced to 14 years in prison today. Now, this is different than what the initial plan was, as we were expecting his second trial to take off. But of course, that was changed to a plea deal. This is for a number of sexual offenses here in San Diego County. Actually, a few weeks ago, it seemed like Winslow Jr. had questions himself about what was going on when he was in court for a virtual appearance. So yesterday, or not yesterday, but rather a few weeks ago, it was surprising because it was supposed to be the start of his second trial after that jury could not decide whether or not Winslow Jr. raped a hitchhiker in 2018. Instead, the former NFL player changed his guilty plea from a sexual battery count to assault with intent to commit rape. These are all sexual crimes against 5 women in North County. Winslow Jr. is a San Diego native and had already been convicted in a 2019 jury trial of rape, indecent exposure, and other crimes involving 3 women. But on the other hand, the jury was hung on counts involving the 2 other victims. Winslow later pleaded guilty to related crimes against the other 2 women and was facing up to 18 years in prison until the new plea agreement was reached back in February. Now, as for these original charges, he faced a potential life sentence, so this is quite a bit less time than a life sentence. This is what Winslow said about the possibility of a jury trial.
If I was to go to trial, would I get an actual jury of my peers that people of color that would look like me?
And of course, Winslow Jr. is the son of Kellen Winslow Sr., a San Diego Chargers great and Hall of Famer in the football world. And Winslow, actually, in an interview, the senior talked about, race with his son as he was younger, and always said it was like sticking your head in the sand if you didn't talk to your children about race and what that would maybe be like here in a potential legal situation. So maybe that was foreshadowing in that aspect. He, of course, is a San Diego native. Jr. went to Patrick Henry High School. He went to Scripps Ranch High School. He is 37 years old and is expected to be sentenced in just a couple of hours here in Vista. As we learn more information, we will, of course, bring that to you, Netta and Eric.
The Petco Park Vaccination Superstation is reopening this morning after another emergency shutdown over the weekend due to a shortage of the Moderna vaccines. There are 4,000 doses that will be given out to San Diegans today who've had their first shot already. We're told operations beyond Thursday will depend on vaccine availability. And here's how the county vaccine distribution numbers are looking here this morning in our county. More than 943,000 doses have been given out according to the latest update. So that means 21.7% of people in the county have received 1 shot. 10.4% have been given both doses. As of now, more than 89% of the doses the county's received have been administered. County health officials are reporting 376 new COVID-19 cases. 14 more deaths to report here. Our total in the county now 3,317. The ICU count also went up slightly. The good news, hospitalizations do continue to fall.
And let's get into what's going on with the Aztecs. Well, the road to March Madness is picking up. They are ranked number 19 right now, and San Diego State will have a chance to win the conference title tonight. They put their 10-game winning streak all on the line. They'll be playing UNLV in the regular season finale. The Aztecs should have more than enough motivation. You may remember the last time both teams met, the Rebels ruined their perfect record at home last season. Now, the Aztecs also have a chance to cement their place in the NCAA tournament. Tip-off tonight at 6 p.m.
All right, let's hope they can keep the streak going here. Our streak of dry days is about to come to an end here, Evan.
That's right. It has been a long while. Also, our streak of 70-degree and 80-degree temperatures coming to an end this afternoon because we're only going to make it into the 60s, and rain is just on the horizon, about 75 or so miles off the coast, and that means that it'll come our way in about 4 hours, which times us out perfectly for about 10 a.m. Here's what we have outside right now. Still a bit chilly out there, 36 in Oceanside, 39 in Poway, and 40 in Escondido. Clouds are starting to build closer to the coast, and then farther inland we'll see those clouds within a matter of hours. Wind is also going to be something to keep an eye on. So we've got those gusts in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range. I know there is a lot on the screen here, but I'll try to break it down for you. Coastal and valley locations are picking up on 25 to 30 mile per hour gusts, 40 and 55 mile per hour gusts for your mountains. That wind advisory advisory will take effect later on this morning. A chance of rain really picks up around 10 and 11 a.m. It continues all the way through your evening with a brief break toward your afternoon. About noon to 3 p.m. is when we see drier conditions before they pick up for the evening commute. All in all, we're looking at 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, and there are some spots where localized heavier downpours of rain can be expected, even some thunderstorms in the mix. So right now it looks like our totals are going to come to closer to 1 inch for Chula Vista, 3/4 inch for downtown. But we're favoring more rain toward the South Bay, lighter accumulations up to the north, and then for the mountaintops, just about 1 inch, just under 1 inch for Julian and Mount Laguna. Palomar Mountain staying light. Desert locations, the lightest accumulations with 1/100th of an inch for Borrego Springs. So all of this rain picks up closer to the late morning, continues through your evening, and then all of it tapers off into early tomorrow morning, where we move back to that dry and more stable weather pattern for Thursday and Friday. We'll talk about beyond Thursday and Friday, where there is more of an opportunity for precipitation going into about Tuesday. That's coming up in just a bit.